Hello and thank you for making time for us this Friday, the 5th day of July 2019. We are coming to you live from the Nation's Center with a full day's broadcast. But first, the headlines. Tonight,
we might as well treat them as bad people.
Over 4,000 gun holders declared armed and dangerous criminals. Some of your elected leaders are among them. Also tonight, the James Gishuru Rironi Road land compensation hiked by more than 30 times.
There was a RAP consultant report which gave a value of land at 900,000 per acre.
That variation is abnormal.
Plus, this man is filthy and rich. The filth, a disguise for his illegal trade. The dirt is no longer under the carpet.
They were able to recover from him 275,150 shillings, which were hidden, which he had carried on his jacket.
And on Bullseye, Molo MP's wrong choices.
Amekuja akiwa mlevi.
Reality check, redemption and commitment.
Kuna makosa yanaweza kufanyika, hayo sio kwamba maendeleo hayatafanyika ama tutasonga mbele pamoja.
And along came a lady of faith.
All the tenders are awarded to the family members.
Lakini sio lazima upige duru, lazima uite magazeti.
It's Bullseye Friday.
This is NTV Weekend Edition with Edmond Nyabola.
Welcome to the broadcast. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Flora Atieno. And to our top story, over 4,200 firearm holders in the country are now being considered armed and dangerous criminals who are to be arrested with immediate effect. I should say this is according to the National Police Service following the expiry of the 7-day period issued for those who have yet to be vetted to surrender their arms. I beg your pardon.
At the expiry of the 7-day period set by the Interior Ministry for over 4,400 firearm holders yet to be vetted to report to police stations, the Inspector General Hilary Mutyambai is reporting an insignificant drop in the number of arms not vetted that have been handed over to the state. In the week offered by the ministry, only 64 firearms have been surrendered countrywide to the Firearms Licensing Bureau, while 50 taken to police stations. Some 4,293 are still lying out here somewhere. The police is now treating them as armed and dangerous criminals.
By today, they will not surrender their firearms to the police station. We might as well treat them as bad people.
An inspection of the holders reveals that the list is composed largely of members of parliament, senators, members of county assemblies and other top leaders. The National Police Service has submitted the list of renegades to regional police commanders to recover the firearms and make arrests with immediate effect.
That number, 4,293, is a big number, and it comprises every person in the society. It could be a politician, it could be a businessman, it could be a normal person. So it does not specify how many politicians have not surrendered.
The IG further warns that firearms are not issued as a status symbol, and consequently those who will display them unnecessarily in public or use them recklessly will have their arms repossessed.
Robbery incidences where firearms have been used in the past, although they are very minimal. But you cannot rule out these firearms being used in commission of crime.
The vetting exercise saw some individual permits revoked and gun dealing licenses also cancelled. While police commanders across the country are expected to execute an order to receive firearms deemed to be illegally in the hands of civilians across the country, families of those who have died who had licenses before have been given 24 hours to return them to the police. Leila Mohammed, NTV, Nairobi.
The National Lands Commission had a difficult time explaining the criteria it used to compensate persons displaced in the ongoing construction of the standard gauge railway and various road projects. The team, which appeared before the Senate Committee for Transport and Infrastructure, was hard-pressed to explain the over-the-top costs for compensations and the delays in payments. NTV's Silas Apollo has that report.
So that as we proceed.
The Transport and Infrastructure Committee, chaired by Kiambu Senator Kimani Wamatangi, put to task Transport CS James Masharia, who came alongside NLC officials.
Mali
Top on the agenda was the ongoing compensations. The legislators wanted to know why some figures had been revised upwards. An example is the James Gishuru Rironi Road, which had its cost of compensation reviewed from 1.4 billion shillings to 6.4 billion shillings.
The first valuers and the second valuers, one of those valuers, I think their license should just be withdrawn. That variation is abnormal. It's actually more than 300%.
In their defense, NLC told the committee that the figures were revised after re-evaluation for the purpose of compensation.
Justification of increment of compensation for from 2 billion to 6 billion. There was an increment was occasioned by differing land values. There was a RAP consultant report which gave a value of land at 900,000 per acre. And I think the NLC team, when they valued, they gave 30 million per acre.
The cost of one section of the 16-kilometer dual carriageway road is said to have been increased from 1.4 billion shillings to 6.4 billion shillings and later cut to 5.1 billion shillings. The Kenya National Highway Authority hired a consultant to evaluate the compensation claims, which is said to have affected some 729 people. NLC also told the committee it stopped the compensation of some 73 properties pending a meeting slated for Monday.
Have the minister.
NLC has been accused of inflating costs of land for compensations, especially along the standard gauge railway line. Former chairman Mohammed Swazuri has been indicted for misleading the Ministry of Education to pay a businessman some 1.5 billion shillings for the Roraka land, which was found to belong to the public. The National Lands Commission says that the Monday meeting, which it will hold alongside the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, will help shed light on some of the troublesome compensations before they are paid out. Silas Apollo, NTV, at Parliament Buildings.
Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu has denied allegations of corruption and theft of public resources, as alleged by the county's former Chief Finance Officer Faith Njeri Harrison. Waititu now claims that the 6 county officers who resigned are agents of his political foes, but as Vincent Udur now tells us, the allegations are too grave to wish away.
Governor Ferdinand Waititu has been at loggerheads not only with his deputy James Nyoro, but also officers at the Department of Finance, forcing 6 of them to resign. One of them, Faith Harrison Njeri, a former chief finance officer, is however not going away quietly. Njeri is accusing her former boss of continued mismanagement, massive theft and plunder of public resources.
All the tenders are awarded to the family members, the wife, son, and the proxies. If all the public properties have been acquired and transferred to the private individuals, I don't see Kiambu surviving.
But Waititu has dismissed the allegations, accusing Njeri of deceit.
Wale wanazunguka wakiimba wimbo ati kuna ufisadi, kuna wizi hapa Kiambu. Saa hii wameitishwa ushahidi, mpaka wametoroka siku hizi waonekani, kwa sababu ile mambo ingine walikuwa wanasema ni ya uongo.
Faith Harrison resigned barely 2 weeks after Waititu reinstated her in the finance docket. Earlier on, she had resigned after she was transferred to the trade docket after disagreeing with the governor. But Waititu is now turning the heat on the finance department.
Tumeweka officers wapya, ndio kila mtu ambaye anadai deni yoyote katika kaunti ya Kiambu akuje, pesa tuko nazo, tuangalie makaratasi yako na tuko tayari kukulipa wewe ambaye una madai ya ukweli. Kwa sababu kulingana na Auditor General, madai ile inadawiwa hapa Kiambu, nusu yake ni ya uongo.
The governor is facing corruption charges in court of a suspected irregular award of tenders valued at 588 million shillings to companies associated with him and his family. Vincent Odur, NTV.
Even before the dust settles on the 250,000 shillings house allowance claimed by each member of parliament, the legislators are now plotting a scheme to create a night allowance whenever they are in Nairobi to attend sessions. The Saturday Nation tomorrow reveals the details of the new allowance dubbed Domestic Subsistence Facilitation and is to be paid when attending parliamentary business. It should entitle each MP to between 18,200 and 24,000 shillings per night. Parliamentary business is conducted between Tuesday and Thursday, meaning that the MPs and senators can claim the money for 4 nights from Monday to Thursday, totaling to 96,000 shillings each per week. The amount translates to 384,000 shillings each per month. Grab your copy of the Saturday Nation for the full details. And the case against digital strategist Dennis Itumbi is now spilling beyond charges of forgery to suspected disorderly behavior while in police custody. Muthaiga OCS Alphonse Kimengwa has been interdicted for allowing Itumbi out of the cells and sharing information about the DP's aid on social media. Mel Miendo has that report.
The nonchalance of digital strategist Dennis Itumbi following his arrest on Wednesday and subsequent session in court on Thursday this week is one that has raised eyebrows. But that's not all. Itumbi, who was on Thursday detained at the Muthaiga police station for 5 days over a fake letter alleging a plot on Deputy President William Ruto's life, has also caused a scandal within the Muthaiga police precinct. This placing Muthaiga OCS Chief Inspector Alphonse Kimengwa in the wrong side of the law. It is reported that police officers at the station allegedly allowed Itumbi to spend hours outside the police cell with his friends, where these photos were taken and shared on social media. In the pictures, Itumbi is seen with TV journalist Jackie Maribe, politician Josiah Murigu, and his brother David Itumbi, with no police officers in sight. Inspector Kimengwa has been interdicted. Investigations are underway, but sources say Inspector Kimengwa will not be fired. He could, however, face disciplinary action. Itumbi and his friends are at risk of imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years or a fine not exceeding 20,000 shillings or both, if found guilty of disorderly conduct, according to the Police Act. Section 60, subsection 1 of the Act says that if a person who, in any police building, police office, lockup or cell, behaves in a riotous, indecent, disorderly or insulting manner, shall be guilty of an offence.
Given that the Muthaiga OCS has now been interdicted, it paints quite a bad picture of how the police conduct their affairs, especially with individuals who are suspected of committing crime. As it is now, there has been no comment from the police with regards to this specific matter.
Itumbi is expected back in court next Wednesday as the prosecution sought more time to conduct further investigations on the genesis of the fake letter. Mel Miendo, NTV.
Meanwhile, the politics of the alleged assassination plot on Deputy President William Ruto dominated his Bungoma and Busia tour, with leaders allied to him accusing the Directorate of Criminal Investigations of diverting attention on the matter. But the DP steered clear of the talk, instead calling on leaders to unite the country. Zacchaeus Amosame has that report.
The DP was in Bungoma and Busia counties, where he presided over fundraisers for women and border groups. The leaders who accompanied him took issue with how the Directorate of Criminal Investigations has handled the alleged plot to assassinate the Deputy President, saying they are using the diversionary tactics to water down the weight of the matter.
Sisi wote tuko kwa ile timu ya Tanga. Kama ni kutafuta ya kukamatwa, sisi tuko hapo, sababu tunahakikisha naibu ya rais anaendelea kufanya kazi yake ya Deputy President ya kuleta maendeleo.
Sisi tunataka DCI utuambie kwa koti kama indeed that meeting part of the agenda was assassination. Life of a human being si maisha ya kuku.
Lakini 2022 sisi hatuwezi sahau na hatuwezi kataswa ati hatuwezi kupika siasa. Sisi hatuuzi maandazi, sisi hatuuzi makaa, sisi sio walimu kina na bangi wanafunza watoto kwa shule. Sisi kazi yetu ni siasa na lazima tupige siasa ya Ruto 2022.
The DP's aide Dennis Itumbi has been arrested and charged in court for allegedly forging the fake assassination plot letter.
I want to hope that the arrest of Itumbi is not in line with what we've been seeing as perpetuation of people who only want to instill fear to the people who are being seen as close to the Deputy President.
The Deputy President chose to remain silent on the matter, instead urging politicians from across the political divide to focus on uniting the nation.
Na nataka niwahakikishie mimi na Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta, yeye akiwa rais na kiongozi wa taifa, tutahakikisha kwamba wale wote ambao wamechaguliwa ni watu ambao tutafanya kazi na wao kuunganisha Kenya na kushughulikia mambo ya maendeleo. Wale wengine ambao wanafanya mambo maovu na watu wa kupinga mambo juu chini, sisi tunawaambia watulize boli. Kenya wanataka maendeleo, wanataka tuungane, wanataka tushirikiane, ndio Kenya hii tuweze kubadilisha.
Dakis Masame, NTV, Bungoma.
Police in Bungoma County and the National Environment Management Authority officers are tonight working on dismantling a cartel that may have escaped their attention since the use of plastic bags was outlawed. They have today arrested an unusual suspect who the law enforcers believe is a member of that team. A man presumed mad but who is believed to be faking his mental status was arrested with a consignment of the banned plastic bags.
He stood aside as police combed through his contraband. He could easily pass for an onlooker, but he was the suspect.
We were able to arrest one person whom we found in possession of 15,000 flat packs.
And this was not all he was found in possession of.
And they were able to recover from him 275,150 shillings.
Shikuku, as he is known, left many puzzled after the stash of cash suspected to have accrued from the illegal trade of banned plastic bags.
You will not imagine that he has any business to do, because he has one or two pieces in the market, which you can assume like he's a madman, you know.
When he was arrested, he was clad in worn-out, dirty clothes and plastic open shoes. He was unkempt and in very poor hygiene. He sometimes even speaks to himself, a convincing camouflage for an illegal business. But underneath the brushy look, an apparently clever and dedicated trader, a master of his game, who over time may have thrived in the full glare of law enforcers.
So he's a man you cannot suspect to be doing this business. He looks like a mentally disturbed case.
But his proverbial 40 days were over after having maximized on the porous Kenya-Ugandan border and smuggled in bags, selling them at a bargain. The police say this was not the first raid, neither will it be the last. The previous attempt to get to this cartel was thwarted by rowdy youth, beneficiaries of the illicit trade. Shikuku is to be arraigned when investigations are complete. For now, he remains in police custody. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to continue with the NTV Weekend Edition tonight, so Mark Masai will be coming with the rest of the broadcast. But as we take a break, we'll leave you with sounds and pictures of the third edition of the Machakos Art Fest, which took place at the Machakos People's Park.
NTV Weekend Edition with Mark Masai.
Welcome back to NTV Weekend Edition, tag teaming with Edmond Nyabola tonight. So let's keep it going. Now remember the Molo MP Kuria Kimani, who turned up drunk at a meeting meant to help fight illicit brew in his area of jurisdiction? Well, he was at another meeting today within his constituency, still in high spirits. This is what I mean.
Na vita ambayo tumeitwa hapa siku ya leo. Wikigereira dhirire. Tukuje.
This was Thursday. A bold entry and bold move for Molo MP Kuria Kimani to turn up unconventionally to an event on the fight against illicit brew, especially amongst the youth in his constituency. An ironic coincidence, he was drunk.
Mimi nimechoka kusema mambo ya uovu wa Elbagon.
A new day and a new entry. The MP was leaving nothing to chance today. Steady steps into the Chesingele Secondary School in Muchorwe Trading Center in Molo, doing what you could even call the walk and turn sobriety test. There was even gospel music to usher him in. Seemingly chasing a different spirit, even through the songs he sang along to in agreement. He was definitely in high spirits today, but nothing as potent as what he had yesterday. Today, he was hydrating well, perhaps after all the dancing, and he seems to have had a moment of reflection to what his constituents thought was a show of poor leadership.
Mahali kuna haribika, kuna rekebishwa. Makosa yakifanyika yanarekebishwa.
Whether he was high on illicit brew or his own supply, or leading by example, well, some form of example, this could all well be a sobering experience for him. A case of cheers and jeers.
Cheers, Mheshimiwa. And I mean that by, yes, agreeing to the fact that when Jesus says yes, nobody says no. All the best as you continue leading your constituents. Today marks 50 years since former Economic Planning Minister Tom Mboya was gunned down along Moi Avenue as he stepped out of a chemist's shop. Family and friends gathered at the Holy Family Basilica earlier today to commemorate one of Kenya's most influential politicians. Stacey Kirori was there for us.
Tom Mboya's name alone is a legacy that has remained engraved in the hearts of Kenyans. The then Cabinet Minister for Economic Planning is remembered for his planning prowess and political acumen. His sparkling political career was ended 50 years ago along this road when he was shot by confessed gunman Nahashon Njoroge.
He had the ability to gaze into the horizon and internalize what his people and his country would need in the years ahead.
Mboya, who was referred to by his counterparts as Sungura Mjanja, which means a witty hare, lived up to his wit and virtues, which included his embrace of all tribes across Kenya.
Tribalism has been a very big major problem in this country, and if Tom Mboya overcame it, and actually I think other Kenyans should also try to copy the same, and then we unite the country as one.
Mboya was a staunch ally of then-President Jomo Kenyatta, something which put him at loggerheads with opposition politicians from his Luo Nyanza backyard. In the wake of his death, violent scenes erupted in the region, which led to the deepening of animosity between Jomo Kenyatta and his once ally, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, the country's first vice president. Tom Mboya was oblivious to the fate that he would face on July 5, 1969, as he walked out of a chemist and into the hands of gunmen. Fast forward to 2019, the statue of the national hero now sits on the junction of Moi Avenue and Mamangena Street, to some as a meeting point and to others as a symbol of true heroism. Stacey Kirori, NTV.
And his memory lives on. President Uhuru Kenyatta has joined in condemning Starehe Member of Parliament Charles Njagua's statements against foreigners working in Kenya. The head of state is in Tanzania for a private visit under the invitation of President John Pombe Magufuli. The Tanzanian president downplayed strained relations between the two countries.
Even though details of the agenda and the nature of the visit have not been made public, it is believed that the talks will address relations between the two countries, coming in the wake of alleged xenophobic remarks by Starehe MP Charles Njagua.
Ukiangalia huku Nyamakema Gekomba na area zingine, wa Chinese wamechukua hizo biashara. Ukiangalia masoko zetu, wa Tanzania na wa Uganda wamechukua biashara zetu. Sasa sisi tumesema enough is enough.
The controversial MP was charged in court, prompting a solidarity call by his colleagues in the National Assembly.
Kenyans' top professionals are not getting jobs in Tanzania. And I'll give an example. Vodafone International appointed Sylvia Mulinge as the head of Vodafone Tanzania. And the president and the government of Tanzania refused her. And she came back, now she works with Safaricom.
This is not the first time Kenya-Tanzania diplomatic relations have been threatened. In 2018, the Tanzanian government seized and destroyed 5,000 chicks and 416 trays of eggs being transported across the border. The Tanzanian government claimed the traders were evading tax. From poultry, President Magufuli proceeded to cattle. In 2017, the Tanzanian government reportedly auctioned 1,300 cattle owned by Kenyan herders. The frosty relationship first manifested in the 70s when then Tanzanian President Julius Nyerere closed the border. This led to frosty relations within the East African community. Kenya's founding father will then replace the common regional currency, the East African shilling, with the Kenya shilling. Tanzania and Kenya have been on polar opposites on many diplomatic issues. President John Magufuli has failed to show up for state invitations in Kenya, instead sending representatives. Tanzania also failed to support Kenya's bid for the African Union Commission leadership, in which then Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohamed lost in the vote. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
The Counter-Terrorism Center has received new institutions as members and seeking to step up the war on terror. This follows President Uhuru Kenyatta's signing into law the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2019, which includes the Prevention of Terrorism Act. The new members of the CTC are the National Police Service, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Kenya Wildlife Service, the Kenya Prison Service, and the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. The center will also act as an approving and reporting institution for all civil society and international non-governmental organizations engaged in preventing and countering violent extremism and radicalization. President Uhuru Kenyatta has signed into law the Bill on Merchant Shipping Act 2019 that will allow the Kenya National Shipping Line and the Mediterranean Shipping Company, which is Italian, to jointly run the second container terminal at the port of Mombasa. The terminal generates billions of shillings in revenue and has been at the center of controversy. And NTV's Kevin Mutai reports, the Kenya Ports Authority is already in talks with the Kenya National Shipping Line on how to start operations.
On Friday, President Uhuru Kenyatta assented to the amended statute law on Merchant Shipping Act, just a few days after members of parliament failed to raise a requisite quorum to challenge his memorandum. This will now see the Kenya National Shipping Line run operations ranging from imports and exports at the second container terminal at the port of Mombasa. Maritime stakeholders, including Dock Workers Union, have threatened to go to court to challenge the move by government, claiming that so many jobs at the port will be at risk.
There is no country in the entire world where a national shipping line, is allowed to run the port. And besides that, there is no national shipping line which is owned by any country.
The amended statute seeks to exempt a shipping line owned or controlled by government from restrictions or ship owners from providing certain services related to crewing agencies, pilotage, clearing and forwarding agents, and general ship contractor, among other operations. But stakeholders are raising concerns of a business rivalry between foreign shipping lines operating at the port. For instance, they are questioning why Maersk, a Danish shipping company, has been enjoying the monopoly of berths 13 and 14 and also showing interest for the automated CT2. Some claim that this is a supremacy fight between MSC and Maersk.
When they see that national government is now operationalizing Kenya National Shipping Line, they are seeing a threat that maybe in future it will be a choice of importing and exporting government cargo.
Where are they going to get this business when for the last 10 years they have been only doing 18% of the business at the port of Mombasa? This is a question that begs for an answer.
Those opposed to the move have accused the government of allowing a private operator to run the facility without undergoing competitive bidding through an open and transparent process.
Kenya National Shipping Line sasa hivi kulingana na hisa zake haiwezi kuwa ya Wakenya. Kama hisa 47 ziko kwa Maersk ambayo ni kampuni MSC ambayo ni kampuni ya Wataliano.
MSC has invested in Kenya National Shipping Line was in the region of about 50 million. It was very, very easy to calculate and say that this is the amount of money that they've been able to put in, and this is the amount of money that they're going to be paid if we wanted to have just the name Kenya National Shipping Line.
Kenya Ports Authority is currently in talks with the revived Kenya National Shipping Line to start operations at the city too. Kevin Mutai, NTV, Mombasa.
That report by Kevin Mutai brings us to our first break here, actually second break, and we're getting into business with Julian's Amboko and the ardent fans of Mr. Edmond Nyabola asking why this bald head has walked into studio. Don't be alarmed, he's just a bit under the weather, but he'll be back on soon. And yes, that's why. So nothing alarmist there. Stay with NTV Weekend Edition. It is time to get down to business. Welcome, I am Julian Amboko. Now, leaders from the Mount Kenya region are exploring investment and cooperation opportunities in different areas in order to boost economic development in the region. Victor Kiprop explores the ambitious plans of the Central Kenya Economic Bloc as other regional economic blocs struggle to survive amid boundary wrangles and political differences.
According to data by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the 10 Mount Kenya region counties account for 26.8% of the country's gross domestic product, but leaders from the region believe that the figure is way below the region's economic potential.
We want to see whether we can enhance our comparative and competitive advantage, contribute more to the economy and enrich this country.
And to do that, the bloc is looking at joint investments in infrastructure projects, including the delayed revival of the 240-kilometer Nairobi-Nanyuki railway line.
The dual carriageways within the bloc, we are looking at Keno, Makutano, Sagana, Nanyuki, Isiolo, Meru, Embu, Makutano dual carriageway, Rironi, Nakuru. We are looking at Gilgil, all the way to Nyahururu, to tap into things like Samburu livestock.
With declining agricultural produce in the region, investments in the sector and the empowerment of the youth to take advantage of the opportunities will also be key.
If you drive or go into any village on a typical Sunday afternoon, the level of drunkenness and hopelessness that you see in our villages is very disheartening.
Issue of productivity, we are looking at research, at training, extension, advisory services, improving access to quality inputs and financial services, improving value addition. We have value chains for each and every crop that is in the county.
So far, there are 6 economic blocks established by counties, but cross-border wrangles and funding constraints have been cited as the main challenges threatening their survival. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business.
And away from matters integration, President Uhuru Kenyatta has signed into law the Insurance Amendment Bill of 2018, which seeks to address fraudulent activities in the industry. The objective of the new insurance law is an amendment to the Insurance Act to address all matters related to underwriting and claim assessment costs while speeding up claim settlements. Apart from introducing legal provisions creating offences on insurance fraud, the Insurance Amendment Act institutes penalties intended to address the problems of insurance fraud that continue to be a major challenge on the stability of the industry in the country. It also aligns the Insurance Act to the International Association of Insurance Supervisors Standards on countering insurance fraud. And elsewhere, over 2 million Kenyans living in the arid and semi-arid areas require food aid as they battle with food insecurity driven by poor rainfall experienced late last year and early this year. The pronouncement by the Food and Agriculture Organizations happens as prices of food across the world dropped slightly last month compared to May. And as Lillian Kiari reports, most Kenyans might not have felt the price shift, with prices of most staple foods still on the rise locally.
The pronouncement of a decline in global food prices by the United Nations Food Body has been attributed to a drop in prices of dairy products and vegetable oils. This offset the increase in the prices of cereals, sugar and meat witnessed across the world. The decline ends a 5-month hiatus of uninterrupted rise in the overall value of the food index. Last month, the food price index averaged at 173, down from 173.3 in May. The food price index is a trade-weighted index that tracks international market prices of 5 major food commodity groups. The cereal price index rose by 6.7% during the same period, mainly driven by a sharp rise in maize export price quotations. The sugar price index increased by 4.2% from the previous month, which was influenced by movements in the Brazilian currency, which gained strength against the US dollar. This even as the dairy price index decreased by 11.9% due to lower demand for cheese and butter. The meat price index rose by 1.5% during the same period, led by strong import demand from the countries that have lower production. FAO has listed Kenya among 40 countries around the world and 31 in Africa that will be forced to increase their imports in a bid to boost supplies in order to compensate for the weather-reduced harvests. Already, the country has announced plans to import 10 million bags of white maize to mitigate the shortage of the staple food.
And that report was brought to us by Leila Mohammed and not Lillian Kerry, as I earlier said. My apologies for that. Now, reduction of taxes for import of raw materials and the downward reviews of the cost of power stand out as top policy challenges that some manufacturers would like the government to put into place to boost the sector's output. Here's Alex Mwangi with more details.
Kenya's manufacturing sector currently contributes less than 10% of the country's GDP, with a goal for it to contribute at least 15% by the year 2022. Now, in order for the manufacturing sector to be elevated from the ground and contribute more towards the economy, there are some policies that will need to be instituted. And so I spoke to some of the manufacturers to find out what they have to say about what needs to be done urgently.
Maybe if some of the power utilities or stuff could be subsidized like the way they do in Egypt, or maybe the labor would be available at a very good price. The other thing is also maybe some of the SME companies, it's about the awareness of the government projects or stuff like that.
Kenya's reliance on imported raw materials for manufacturing means that concerns over taxation are at the apex for some of the players in the sector.
Some companies bring stuff from outside, for which it could be friendly when they bring raw materials, for which that would create employment because they'll be able to make more and more products.
There is evidence to suggest that the manufacturing sector needs more intervention than other sectors if it is to roar into life and provide the much needed jobs, particularly for the youth.
The reality is other sectors seem to be growing at a faster rate than the manufacturing sector. The 15% means we need to grow at 36% per annum. It's a stretch target. Countries have achieved such targets. So it just means that we fix the fundamentals.
The curtains will fall on this year's Build Expo Africa on Saturday. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
And on to the capital markets. Investors at the Nairobi Securities Exchange closed this week with a marginal gain compared to the close of last week. The value of listed stocks stood at 2.281 trillion shillings as at the close of Friday's trade, representing a 2.7 billion shillings gain in paper wealth for the investors compared to last week. The week under review saw the rollout of the derivatives market, with the market reporting a total of 4 trades worth 130,000 shillings in the first 2 days of trading. Investors snapped the index futures in the first 2 days of trading, opting for the single stock futures of Safaricom, East African Breweries and Equity Bank. In the week under review, 90 million shares valued at 2.1 billion shillings were traded, compared to 87 million shares worth 2.7 billion shillings last week. And staying with the capital market, as the Nairobi Securities Exchange marked a historic step by launching its derivatives segment on Thursday this week, we set out to assess the level of public awareness around the securities trading and what the stock market really is. This is what we found out.
About the Nairobi Securities Exchange, to be very frank, I don't know about it. I don't know about it.
I will not consider investing in the NNC because at my level, I don't have any, firm with me.
Ni mahali pa kufanya sarafu za pesa ya kigeni na ile ya kiinchi, so nilikuwa najua kama ni forex exchange.
Now these varied reactions lead us to the question, what is a securities exchange? It is essentially a market where investors buy and sell shares of publicly listed companies. For example, at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, we have over 60 listed companies. And this builds further to the next question. What is a share? It is a proportion of a company which represents a unit of ownership by the investor. For example, assume Wanjiku and Otieno decide to set up a company. They set aside 100,000 shillings towards this, with Wanjiku contributing 60,000, while Otieno contributes the remaining 40,000. Technically, Wanjiku commands a 60% shareholding of the company, with Otieno holding the remaining 40%. If, at a later date, the two decided to list their company at the Nairobi Securities Exchange and received regulatory approval, they would be selling a proportion of their shareholding to new investors through what is popularly known as an IPO, an initial public offer. And finally, what is a publicly listed company? This is a company which has sold a portion of its shares in the Securities Exchange, just as we have explained with Wanjiku and Otieno's company, allowing investors to buy and sell their shares. And away from that explainer, that Kenya is a sugar deficit country is not in doubt. The question remains how long the annual deficit will be covered on cheap imports, which have had a negative effect on the life of local millers. And with millers coming dangerous open, irrigation has been floated as one of the solutions through which the sugar industry can be saved. Kevin Mutai visited Kwale International Sugar Company, a sugar mill in Kwale, which is investing in irrigated cane and now reports on Food Friday if indeed irrigation can save the industry.
The future is not rosy for the sugar industry as it sags under the weight of debts, obsolete machines, dwindling sugarcane acreage, and shrinking profits. These factors are forcing sugar millers to rethink their strategy in order to stay in business. This is Kwale International Sugar Company. Since it started operations in 2014, the miller has gradually increased its sugar production. With a crushing capacity of 5,000 tons per day, Kiskol now produces more than 70,000 tons.
We are 100% on green cane harvesting. So we are not burning. We are not sending carbon dioxide in the atmosphere.
To date, the company needs 80% of water it sources from its dams and boreholes, with the surplus going into milling and processing operations, depending on its 9 pumping stations to ensure constant supply of water. The piping system laid across the farm supplies the precious commodity, as well as supports delivery of injected fertilizers and other soluble chemicals.
We have dams, 7 dams, constructed dams with a capacity of 25 million cubic meter of water, rainwater we are harvesting.
The irrigation system has saved the company up to 40% of the water needed to see the crop to maturity. Cane under rain-fed conditions, for instance, only yields 60 tons per hectare, while the irrigated system delivers 140 tons per hectare. This, added to the shorter maturity period of sugarcane at the coast compared to other parts of the country, has catapulted the little-known miller to 15% market share and steadily growing.
Our cane quality is measured in pole percent cane. We are at 11.94%, while in the industry it is 10.55. That's the average of the entire sugar industry. And in the industry we have others doing as low as 8.7%.
With the need of power to run the factory and the pumping stations across the farm, waste materials from sugarcane is processed to generate steam that is converted into electricity. The facility has a capability of producing 18 megawatts of electricity, which sufficiently runs all the machines.
We are consuming around 4.5 megawatt and around 3.5 to 4 megawatt we use for our irrigation network in the cane field. The remaining 10 megawatt we are planning to pump to the grid, national grid.
It's close to 5,500 acres of nucleus farms scattered across Kwale County on the south coast of Kenya, are dotted with drip irrigation pipes running into thousands of kilometers, ensuring a faster maturity and an all-year supply of cane. Kevin Mutai, NTV, Kwale County.
And that report by Kevin Mutai brings us to the end of the Business Bulletin tonight. Coming up will be Masai with Bullseye. Stay tuned. millions had said it's Bullseye with Mark Masai, that would really be a flat edition of Bullseye. It's with Emmanuel Juma. And behind the success of any man is a woman. So the adage goes, and the opposite is also true. In the case of one Ferdinand Waitito, it's all about wealth, and with a woman of faith spilling the beans, Babayao's pressure can only go up. Also going up in smoke this time is the reputation of the Molo MP, who you saw earlier, whose idea of one for the road on his way to a meeting called to discuss alcoholism is earning a new name, as Emmanuel Juma now reports on Bullseye.
Meet Honorable Francis Kuria Kimani, or FKK. He was in an FKK fanya kanywaji katambe mode here. What's up, FKK?
Mimi nimechoka.
So tired was Mheshimiwa that extraordinary measures had to be taken to get him to the venue where a meeting to discuss excessive drinking was taking place.
Mambo ya pombe ya kwa sababu ya eni yetu ya.
Oh my.
Amekuja akiwa mlevi, hata tulijua tu kama akipanda kwa fence.
Amekuja kama amelewa zakare.
The constituents had spoken. That's when a man wakes up from whatever stupor it was and changes tact. FKK now chooses water, and he has also realized that perhaps a banana a day keeps the bottle away.
Kuna makosa inaweza kufanyika.
If that's an apology, prove it. Prove that you are now saved. Wow, Mhesh.
My commitment ni kwamba mahali kuna haribika, kuna rekebishwa.
That is pressure.
Iko pressure kubwa sana.
Waititu.
Otherwise
to you too.
Hata za hii pressure hapana yako na President Uhuru.
But that's nothing compared to what you're about to experience when the tall walking faith is done with you.
All the tenders are awarded to the family members.
Lakini sio lazima upige duru.
Much of the public properties has been transferred to private individuals.
Watu wafuatilie mzuri hiyo manyumba nilinunua wakati gani.
This is it. Baba yao meets mama yao.
Unakamata kwa nini?
Nichukue vitu zangu hapo kwa gari.
Unakamata kwa nini?
Sijui.
One mama who will not be scared by the mere act of throwing stones.
This county is a GOK. It's a government of Kenya county, and that's why it is funded and doesn't have to be managed like a personal kiosk for the families and proxies.
That is wrong and lack of manners. Yes, that is lack of manners. Yes.
Si unafaa ukue hado na mwanamke.
She will need a lot of faith, this faith and prayers.
Kenya is safe in the hands of God. Nobody should worry about many things. There are many stories all over the place. Maneno hii, mashindano.
Kwa hivyo kama Wakenya tukitaka kutubu sawa sawa, tukienda kanisani Jumapili, sema ukweli. Hapana enda tu kanisa umebeba pesa kwa gunia ati unasaidia Mungu kwa kanisa. Hapana.
You are against any Harambe even for women because you say it is corrupt. But it is because you are the Lord of poverty.
Perhaps the reason why new dance groups are being formed, new dance styles are being invented, and new tunes composed.
And the Lord of poverty will have no space in our nation.
Anza kwa kutubu dhambi zako. Alafu ndio tupeane sadaka yako kwa kanisa.
The Luyas would say these two must have shared Imondo, the gizzard.
Who is this? Which type of hermeneutics they are trying to teach us that we cannot take over into the church? Shame on you. May you perish.
And the job description of the DP again?
Mimi nashangaa kwani kazi ya deputy president ni gani?
That's what I'm also asking.
Mimi sipiki chai kwa ofisi. Mimi si watchman.
No more hustler's job for the son of Samoei. Wonder no more. Talk about seeing the light. Emmanuel Juma, Bullseye, NTV.
A very good evening to you. It is time to play on NTV's weekend edition. Welcome to NTV Sport. I am Warote Kiru. Defending champions Carl Flash Tundo and Team Jesop lead after day one of the Safari Rally. The five-time champions finished the super special stage out of the Zambian husband and wife duo of Leroy and Usha Gomez with Onkarai and Gareth Dawe third fastest. The event is seeking to rejoin the World Rally Championship next year and was flagged off by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Sean Kadovilis reports from Naivasha.
It is the end of day one of the Safari Rally, just the super special stage that was held outside of the Kasarani Stadium, and the general feedback is that it was very, very well executed. Just to let you know the results from today, the top five, it was Carl Flash Tundo who was first with 3 minutes 56 seconds, and that was over the 4.8 kilometer course. In second place, Leroy Gomez from Zambia. In third place, Onkarai. In fourth place, Jassy Singh from Zambia. So two Zambians in the top five, and rounding off the top five, it is the double Africa champion Manvia Barian. I'm proud to have with me the chairman of the Safari Rally project, Phineas Kimathi. Phineas, first of all, you must be very happy with how things have gone today.
Yes, it was a fantastic day. We're really excited. Everybody is happy. We can see things happening the way we planned them, and we're hoping for a result that will make everybody happy.
Thank you very much for joining us. Just very quickly today, your impressions on how today went.
I think it is a great day. We've had a wonderful, wonderful time. And, you know, I'll be biased if I really want to talk about today, because for the first day in my life, I drove a rally car.
The government is committed to making the Safari Rally part of the 2020 World Rally Championship. One of the more important aspects is the manufacturers in the World Rally Championship. We've got four in the country. That is Hyundai, Toyota, Citroen and M Sport Ford. And they've been monitoring what's going on with the Safari Rally.
We're here mainly for our teams, just to check all the small aspects what we need to be prepared for the next year. That includes everything from airport until arrival in the flights, to the hotels, service park facilities, cooperation with the media, cooperation with organizers. It's all about to be sure we can be well prepared for the competition next year, which I hope will be here.
So it's been a very successful day. We await and see now what happens on the second day as the cars head deep into the Rift Valley at Soisambu and Kedong. Sean Carter-Villis, NTV in Naivasha.
It's been a long but fruitful day for Sean Carter-Villis, and returning the Safari Rally to the World Rally Championship was among the Jubilee Party campaign promises in 2013. With the rally inches away from a return to the big league, the government machinery was in full display as the Safari revved off at the Kasarani Stadium.
Rallying has very deep roots in Kenya's national psyche. Indeed, many generations of Kenyans have been raised against the backdrop of impressive rally races, crisscrossing our nation and region, and many Kenyans looking up to motoring legends who distinguish themselves due to their skill, daring, and jaw-dropping feats.
Your Excellency, a comprehensive report will be delivered to us after this event, and it will be delivered to us by the FIA Safety Commission. And we are confident that in the report we will score well, and that immediately we will be allowed to embark on the next phase of this historic journey, preparations for the WRC Safari Rally.
It's good for the global significance of Kenya for this event to return home. So from the government side and certainly from the President's office, we are doing everything possible to support the running of this event, to participate in, and to encourage Kenyans to come out in large numbers to support the return of the World Rally Championship home to Kenya.
The gentleman who just spoke last is Nzio Kawaita, who is the head of the delivery unit in the office of the President, and